Okay, so getting started. This is just kind of a last minute thing. I'm going to be testing out some new gear and just kind of flying around and go ahead and switch over. Boom. And bring this music down a little bit. I think that's good. How's everybody doing tonight? This is Paris, France. I'm in a Cessna 172. It's nighttime and I'm just going to fly around a bit. I'm kind of getting used to this new yoke. It's a SimFlight CLS 120. I first tried this out at the Flight Sim Expo last year in 2024. Gosh, that just ended a few days ago. And so, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hit the brake, flap subs, put some lights on, and we'll get going here. So I don't know if you can tell in the picture, the yoke's coming back on its own. I'm not doing that. That is the air going over the elevator. And we'll go ahead and rotate here. And turn those lights back off. And I will head over. Like I said, I'm just kind of flying around Paris. And kind of just to see what there is to see. I may bring the lights up here in a bit, but in the meantime, just trying out some new gear. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of new gear coming out. For me, 2025 is going to be the year of force feedback. I just put up a video tonight reviewing this yoke, the SimFlight CLS 120. There's a CLS 60, and I think I'm going to go on a campaign here for more force feedback offerings that are affordable. That's going to be the big thing, that are affordable. Coming from some racing sim where force feedback is the norm. It's not the exception, it's the norm. And here it's in flight simulation, it's kind of only the high end gear. Very happy that Moza and other companies are starting to come out with more SimFlight and Moza. My understanding is WinWing has a device coming out. It'll be a joystick, force feedback joystick. And the cool thing is it's time, it's due. I've got an old Thrustmaster T150. I don't remember what it cost when it was new, but it has force feedback. It's probably like 2 or 3 Newton meters. It's not much, but it does something. And even the most bargain brands right now in racing simulation have some level of force feedback, and I think that's important. Granted, they only have a single axis to worry about in general, and flight is a 2-channel or 2-axis issue. But having said that, I would almost rather a company come out with a single axis just for pitch. That's where you really feel it, and do some kind of traditional, bungee or elastic strap or something for the roll. Having said that, it really is. It's just two axes, and it's not. There needs to be more offerings. Anyway, having said that, I'm just kind of flying around and enjoying this. I like this is a Microsoft Flight 2024, and yes, I've had some issues with it. Yes or no, I don't like the streaming aspect of it. Having said that, it's got some things that I really like. I love the hardware profiles. I love the way that's set up. That's so much better than Microsoft 2020. I am gonna hold out on my opinion when it comes to the actual graphics. I haven't done a really good A/B comparison yet to see if it's better. Hard to say at this point. I fly in 1080p. I don't fly in 4K. That's because I tend to stream and I don't like setting it back, setting it for 4K, then back to 1080. And streaming in 4K is just too hard to do. I don't have the gear for that. I don't have the card for that. And my streaming machine and flight sim machine are the same machine. And so that's a factor. That's a factor. So, but I will say that just doing this, flying over Paris like this, and I can take it down a little bit as I'm fighting this force feedback yoke, and that's what's cool. In the video that I just put up, I do have a section where I talk about trimming and how the force feedback is crucial in duplicating that. For those of you who are actually pilots, for those of you who are thinking about being pilots, or those of you that are student pilots, then trimming an airplane, especially a small GA aircraft, is very important. When I fly in real life, I spend a significant amount of time trimming the plane for whatever I'm doing, whether I'm climbing or descending or maintaining level flight. That all starts pitch power trim, and it's a constant thing. And what it does is flying an airplane is a very physical thing, and if you're not constantly kind of adjusting the trim, you're going to be using an inordinate amount of effort. And force feedback does a much better job of approximating that than a passive yoke like a Honeycomb Alpha, for example, which I just sold mine, and I was sad to see it go. It was one of the better yokes that I've had. But once at the Flight Sim Expo, once I got my mitts on some force feedback, it was just coming back to a passive yoke it was disappointing. And I knew that would be the case. Look at all these helipads here in Paris. I probably should have done a helicopter flight, but I wanna fly with this yoke some, kind of get an idea of what it's like flying kind of low. But it's cool because when you trim, and let's see if I can kind of get a better camera angle here. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but I've got the yoke, and I'm basically trimmed in. I've got it pretty well dialed in right now. If I were to climb, so more throttle, and I'll kind of nose up, I'm pulling back. And if this were a passive yoke, what I would do is once I got my angle and my speed, what I would do is I would start to either with the switch on the yoke or the wheel here, I would basically start to adjust it, in this case, nose up. And as I would do that, I would slowly move the yoke forward. I would slowly move the yoke forward like this. And that is the opposite of what happens in a real airplane. You're just trying to get it to that passive place. When you let go of like a honeycomb, it's just going to zing to the center. And that's the opposite of what happens. So if this were an actual aircraft, I'd pull back. And right now I'm fighting. If I were to let go, it would ease forward. But I'm pulling back. And what I would do is I would bring my trim up until I could feel that I can relax. But the yoke's not going to move forward if I trim it in properly. So that's probably one of the bigger advantages. This thing also does a pretty decent job of approximating what it feels like when you do a stall, where you just lose all it just goes floppy on you. It does buffeting, then kind of goes floppy. Um, and it does a really good job of approximating that as well. So this is, like I say, this is pretty cool. And it's brought my enthusiasm, which was not exactly low to begin with. Um, got some stutters there. And for those that are out there that do stream, when you're in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, I wonder, because are you fighting the flight sim with OBS or whatever you're using to stream with? And I don't know the big difference, because Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 also streamed to some extent, but you could certainly have an offline option. I mean, it looks gorgeous. It looks really good. And I haven't had any problems with that just yet. I don't like that the market is not working. I don't like that a lot of the planes that I had before are not available. But at least the three things that I fly the most are the Cirrus Vision Jet, the 172, usually the G1000 variant, and the Cabri G2 helicopter. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Those are my three favorites. I'm going to branch out. I want to start learning larger aircraft. I want to start doing that, hitting up some of the tutorials. So here I am. I'm just constantly adjusting the trim, and this thing does a great job of approximating that. I love it. I just love it. Do want to give some shout outs here. I do have, let's see here, some recent subscribers, and I want to appreciate that. Kind of pull the name up here. I do appreciate you guys doing that. Yeah, I think next time I do this Paris thing, I will do the helicopter again. I've done this before, and I may have even streamed it, but this is a lot of lights and it's cool. But the helicopter gives you a little better view. It's slow. It's very slow. And I'm not very good at the larger helicopters just yet. But the G2 is awesome. It's fun to fly. It's easy to fly. I can't fly the Bell at all. And I need to work on that. I could try a landing here. It's a cool view. And we can look over here. So I have some views programmed into the hat on the yoke. I have forward is forward, left is left, right is right. If I go pull it back though, now I'm outside of the plane, which is cool. Back in the plane. And one thing that Flight Sim 2020 and 24 does that's really awesome is it has a camera smart toggle. So if I was approaching a certain airport, I'm I'm too high for this one. You can also make it rotate through certain targets. Let's see if I can lock onto one here. And if you don't use VR or eye tracking, then the smart toggle thing is great. What I don't have programmed is the toggle or next target. And so what is cool is if you have it programmed in right, you can make it hit the airport or the runway that you're heading for, and it'll look at it and it'll help you do, like if you're doing pattern work or landing or doing an approach. So whatever it's hitting right now is under me. And I will go ahead and program at some point I had it before on my keypad, but in 2024 I don't have it. I forgot. So right now it's weird. I'm not used to having the apply a little more force than I normally would. But having said that, I feel like I've got it dialed in pretty close to what a 172 feels like. If anything, I may have it set a little high, meaning I could probably ease up on the Newton meters and by a few ticks and be even closer, especially at kind of a lower speed, straight and level flight. I love these down views like that. I'm not sinking. It might be programmed towards that hospital. I'm actually going to pause. Settings. Go to controls. Keyboard. All right, let's try this. So, yeah. So now I've got it to where 1 is previous smart target, 2 or 3 is the next one. So then I have one of the buttons on the yoke that activates it. So once I get it picked, I can kind of do like this. So you can see if I was going to land at this airport, if I was doing more of an approach, I could come down like this, and it's just going to keep it in the frame. And this is more like it would be in real life. Your head but you have to let go of it, otherwise I think it locks onto the beginning of the runway if it picks an airport. And that is very cool. And X-Plane does not do that to the best of my knowledge, but 2020 does and 2024 does. That is excellent. It's one of my favorite shortcuts. I do have a Tobii tracker, but I have it turned off. There's a workaround for it with 2024, but it's ridiculous. Oh, it's not ridiculous. I'm glad somebody figured it out. It's just more than I want to do. I'll wait for once they drop a driver, an app, or support, or whatever needs to happen. I don't know if it's Tobii and or Microsoft, but once that's addressed, I do like it. I normally have it set up with very little eye tracking and mostly head movement, and I can, on the Yoke, I will have one button that centers and one button that disconnects, and that works awesome in helicopters. That's where where the eye tracker really shines, is in helicopters, especially one that has a lot of glass and gives you a lot of views. So here you can see I'm hitting the button and it's locked on something, and I'm not sure what, probably that helipad. And I can pick and I've not tried this with a helicopter, but here I can pick and go to the next one. You can see it's back to the airport. I'm assuming it's that helipad. Let's see what happens. I'll fly that way. So you can see there's like 3 or 4 helicopter pads here. I can cycle through them. So this Yoke, in terms of what it has on the actual Yoke part, it's got, each side has 2 buttons, forward buttons, that you would use your index finger for. The left fork of it has a red button and a flip switch, a paddle switch, which I have set up for trim. And then on the other side, it's got a hat. I believe it's an 8-way hat. And it also has a center button in the hat, so it also, that's cool too, which I think is what I have set up for my Tobii release, where it turns it off. Here's the rear view. This whole thing is the Yoke. It's ginormous. But I was able to, using hook and loop tape. I've got my Stream Deck. This is just sitting here. I pulled out the Logitech FIPS panels, and It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of throw. It's not very heavy. Um, it's all metal, but it's not very heavy. The yoke is plastic, but the bulk of it is metal. Anyway, I've just recently gotten this all hooked up. I'm still tweaking this new flight sim build, and I wanted to get a little more time in it and kind of run it through its paces. Just for the heck of it, though, I am gonna bring the lights up. Make it about noonish. So a lot of, just saw some stuttering there. I don't have this, I think I have this set at high end or, but not ultra. I haven't really gone through and played with any of the graphics settings. That's such a cool view. I love the reflections and the scratched plexiglass. That's just amazing. Sure, I'm not about to hit it. All right. Well, I just wanted to run through some things. I think I'm going to call it a night. First stream of the year. Hope you guys are having a good new year so far. I think 2025 will be a good year for flight simmers. I know that 2024 had a rough, the flight sim 2024 had a rough start, but I think I'm convinced that the guys, the men and women at Asobo, are in it for the right reasons. They seem dedicated, and having been around them at the expos and watched some live streams, I really do feel like that their intent is good, and so I'm gonna give them the benefit and let them do their thing. I don't know that I'd call this beta level. It seems more stable than that, but and it turns out the problems that I was having earlier were more hardware issue than anything. But having said that, I'm I feel like this will come along quite nicely. In any case, if it gets more people in, then that's what it's all about. So in any case, you guys have